Hey y'all, welcome back to Heirloom Permaculture. As you can tell from the thumbnail and title, today we're not going to talk about what's growing in the garden. We're going to talk about this caterpillar tunnel and how it's held up. And we're coming up on the 2-year mark. Not quite there yet, but we're pretty close. So, waiting 10 days or 2 days to make a video. In Oklahoma weather, it doesn't matter. If it's held up this long, you never know what's going to happen. So we'll get this while we can before anything else happens. But we just want to talk about this Farmer's Friend Gothic tunnel. It's actually the Gothic Pro, which has risers, has the wind bracing kit, the solid center purlins, things like that, and just give you our experience, how it's held up. Like I said, anything we've noticed as far as wear and tear, kind of talk about a little bit about how we built it for what we expected to run into, anything we've noticed, what we might have done different, and anything like that. So maybe we'll even show you a little bit of the results, and if you've seen other videos, you've seen how much we've grown in here, and we can see what we're growing right now, quite a bit. So it's been a big difference in how much we can produce. So, but let's take a look around and walk you through some of the things we've noticed, and some of the things we did, and if we think it was worth it or if we do something else. So the first thing I'd point out, like I said, is this is the Gothic Pro from Farmer's Friend. So you can see the solid center purlin up top. They're standard models. And I'm not sure on the Gothic, but I know on the Quonset style, it's just a nylon webbing strap that you run from one bow to the next, wrap it around it, keep going. With our Oklahoma weather, high winds, storms, all that, and the fact that we're not looking to move this 1 or 2 times a season like a lot of people do with Farmer's Friend caterpillar tunnels, we knew that we could have something more semi-permanent type of construction, and it'd be fine. And the rigidity that it adds and the strength was way more important to us than the mobility. So having that was a huge upgrade for us towards what we were trying to accomplish. And also the wind bracing, which are these diagonal reinforcements here that go from the end wall down and then on down to the bottom here. That braces the whole thing quite a bit. You could tell a drastic difference once we put those in, before we put the plastic on anything, and how much it, between that and the center purlin, how much it tightened up everything versus just the freestanding bows. So you can see these little strips of aluminum flat stock hanging down from the cross members. That's just purely for trellis with the ropes run through. There's nothing structural about that. Farmer's Friend sells a kit to kind of do that. We just kind of DIY'd our own little setup. But as far as those ropes running front to back, that's purely for hanging our tomahawks on to trellis tomatoes, cucumbers, things like that. All right, so let's talk about the end walls. These are not part of the kit that you get. I believe they offer end walls now, but we built these out of cedar lumber. They make a huge difference on kind of cleaning up the ends and the look of it. Otherwise the plastic just stretches down to the ground, and there's ways to attach it to T-posts, things like that. This made it a lot more solid. It has been where we've seen some minor issues. I think I talked about in a previous video, the plastic pulled off of some of these staples, never came back and put furring strips or anything. This wiggle wire strips, that some of this comes with the tunnel, where it goes over the end here. You already get some of that, but we bought more to do the end walls around the doors, around the window, on the window, things like that. Probably need a lot more of it to do this, or put some furring strips on here. So if I had something to do different, it would definitely be not just stapling through the plastic and actually pinch this in, or use the wiggle wire. Wiggle wire is pretty cool because if you got to take anything apart, you just pop this wire out and take it off. It's the same way we put on the shade cloth. We stretch it over, put another layer of the wire in the channel here, and hold that down, and it's just quick and easy. It's pretty rigid, so you know it's a little bit of a chore to get the last bit of it in there, but once it's in there, it's not going anywhere. So we have seen a little bit of sagging with the doors as the whole thing gets kind of shifted in the wind. The gap's not as closed at the top as it used to be, and a little binding at the bottom. Still opens and closes fine, and probably if we'd go into the bracing, loosen everything up, shift everything back like it should be, tighten it all back down, it'd be fine, or it'd be back to like it was. But it really hasn't been that big of a bother that we've taken the time to loosen all of that up, get the ladder out here, that type of stuff. So still working fine. It's just something we've noticed. So the plastic has held up really well. I don't want to say no rips, no tears, but no rips, no tears yet. As soon as I say that, something will happen. But I'm not superstitious. It's just, it seems to happen that way. But I know we've had things hit it and we haven't had any damage yet. I mean, there's nothing super special about this plastic versus our other greenhouse plastic. It's just a 6 mil UV resistant greenhouse film. So it's standard kind of stuff, but we've been fortunate. You know, it's getting some marks on it from the folds from pulling up the sides, but they're not tearing, they're not acting brittle or anything. Plastic still seems plenty soft to deal with issues, so we're real happy with that, with the summers and winters we've been through. All right, so these earth anchors that we put in, as far as we know, they've held, because we don't know if they've really been tested. I mean, we've been through some pretty serious storms and high winds, and we haven't had any damage. Don't know of it trying to lift off. Again, there's nothing else anchoring this thing to the ground. There's rebar stuck into the ground, and the bows just set over it, but nothing ties those together and nothing else anchored in the ground. So these 8 cable anchors are all that's truly holding it down, other than the weight of it. And it seems like it was a good idea, because if we hadn't, who knows what may have happened. We've had some really high winds, we've had some really close calls with tornadoes, and it's you know, when we first put this in, really stressed about it every time the wind was going to get up a little bit, even up 40 miles an hour, which is fairly common around here. But now, even when we're seeing 50, 60 mile an hour severe storm winds, still able to sleep at night thinking this thing's probably not going to wind up in the neighbor's yard or something. You may have seen the video we put up about the solar lights in here, string lights that run down the center there. They don't serve any purpose for growing, obviously, but they're really cool. Again, they're solar. We don't have to run power out here. They're dusted on. They don't typically last all the way till dawn. They'll run most of the night because I've got them on the highest setting. But they've generated a lot of conversation with people, the neighbor stuff. They see the tunnel. And at night you can come out here and kind of look around, look at plants, harvest some stuff, and you don't necessarily have to bring additional light with you. But they're not super bright, but they've held up, no problem with those. I can put a link in the description, and it's a little Edison bulb, so it just kind of looks neat out here. The whole thing kind of glows with a nice warm light. So even with opening up the sides all the way down, you know, this tunnel orients north to south, basically north-south. Our predominant winds are north and south, and with the sides open you can get some airflow, but you don't get real good airflow in the summer when it's really hot. So in this end wall we added this big window, easy to take in and out. Just got 3 bolts here as pins on the bottom. Lift it up, drop the window out. If I were going to make any improvements to this, I don't know, maybe louvers that we can just open and close rather than having to lift this in and out. It's not a big hassle, but when there's the trellises and everything in here, it's a little tougher to get to. It's, you know, one person, for me it's fine. It's a little high for Angela and the kids to try to do. Just do it fine, but just one of those things, there's opportunity to probably improve it some. But again, for not costing us anything but a little bit of 1x2 and 2x2, it works really well. Alright, so right now we don't have the shade cloth on here. We do use it during the summer to protect from sun scald, and also because it helps cool it down quite a bit for us when working out here. It feels a lot better. I mean, you could tell a drastic difference. It's the 50% shade cloth from Farmer's Friend. It's made to put over here. We've got the clips to go down, rope help hold it down. Then, like I said, we also put it in the wiggle wire on the ends. Other than that, we haven't done a whole lot of changes and modifications to it than what we've talked about. 2020 growing season, we grew easily a couple thousand pounds of produce out of here. I know close to 1,500 pounds of stuff that we actually weighed, and there was a lot of stuff that we didn't weigh. So at least 1,500 pounds, if not 2,000 pounds. And a lot of it we wouldn't have had the success we did without it. So it definitely improved our capabilities, being more self-sufficient, self-reliant. If I would change anything about having this here, would be probably having another one right close to it. You know, it's being able to control the moisture, the rainfall coming down on stuff. You get into problems with fungal issues, things like that. It helps with that. You can really control the water input. You can close it up, extend your seasons a little bit on the ends. You can provide the shade to protect a lot of the fruit. There's a lot of different benefits to it. It is a little different than growing out in the open, which we've done for years and we still do. So there was a little learning curve with that. We also changed some of the varieties that we grow that tend to do better in here than outside. But I think if I had the option and the need, I definitely wouldn't hesitate to add another one. They have a new version that's a little wider, a little heavier duty. I might look into one of those because we did have to give up a little bit of aisle space to keep a full width bed, because this isn't as wide as 4 beds and 3 walkways in the normal layout, but it's really close. Other than that, pretty happy with it. Are you happy with it?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yes, I'm happy with it. It works great.
Yeah, so when we talked about ordering one, the original purchase, you know, I haven't looked at the price of them lately. You know, we bought this right 2 years ago. It was about $1,100 for the tunnel and $200 and something for shipping. So we had over $1,300 in it before the materials for the end walls, before the shade cloth, before any of the other add-ons. And it was a little bit of a hard sell.
It was.
For both of us, because we're not commercial growers. You know, it was all for our food here. You know, you think how many grocery trips or whatever that part of the grocery trip would it take to offset it and things like that. So it took a lot of contemplation, finally decided to do it, but it definitely paid off.
You probably had to convince me a little more than you had to convince yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I'd already kind of been talked into it and seen a lot of the benefits, you know, talking to others, but you know, once we got it all set up, and that first early February, we're out here planting in it, and we're stripping down to short sleeves because it's closed up and the sun's out. It's 30 degrees outside and 60 in here.
I'm kind of warm.
Yeah,
right
it's
now,
pretty warm.
actually.
When I pulled that window out a minute ago, it really felt pretty good in here for a minute. But it does really warm things up. So other than that, yeah, we're happy with it. I don't know. I think we'll keep growing in it, and this year is probably going to be, or spring of 2022, it's going to be filled up again. So,
Yeah, it's kind of filled up right now.
Yeah, it's kind of full right now. Somebody's behind on harvesting. So all right, well, she's going to can me up some spinach, so we'll still trying. All right, we appreciate it. We'll see y'all next time.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, wait a minute, one more thing. If you have any questions about the tunnel or anything else we're doing, post in the comments below. You know, we've watched the comments closely and try to answer all the questions. So if you do have any questions, comments, whatever, drop them in there. Be sure to like, subscribe, share with your friends, and help us grow the channel and reach as many people as we can. Now we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.